Welcome. Hey, everybody. My name is Steven, and I'm with Junior Achievement. Really excited today because we're having an interview here with Jeremiah for our JA Career Speaker Series and just kind of getting to know people and their story in the midst of COVID-19, how their life and job has changed. So that's what this conversation is. So, Jeremiah, thanks so much for coming on out today.
Thanks, Stephen, for having me. It's a real pleasure. Just a little background about myself for those of you that are watching. My name is Jeremiah Kumpf. I work for a company called Providence Technology Solutions, which you can kind of see on the shirt here. Down below,
Nice.
That's our logo. I do not work for the Jaguars, but as I will explain a little bit, we are a partner with the Jaguars, and so we're allowed to put their logo on various clothing and marketing material. So anyways, yeah, it's a pleasure to be here. I'm passionate about work, passionate about business, passionate about helping others find jobs, which you'll learn a little bit more about in my job, but great to be here. Thanks for inviting me, Steven.
Yeah, absolutely, man. Any other information you want to share just with everybody, or kind of where you're from, all that good stuff?
Yeah, so I grew up here in Jacksonville, Florida.
Cool.
Was born in Virginia Beach, Virginia. Moved here with my parents when I was 5, and grew up in Jacksonville. Went to college here in Jacksonville at the University of North Florida.
Okay.
And during that time, learned a lot, and then graduated, and now live here in Jacksonville and work here. I have 3 sisters. Played sports a lot growing up in high school, and then worked on and off summer jobs and things like that. And so. It's a little bit about me. Things I enjoyed to do on the weekend would include playing disc golf.
Heck yeah, that's awesome, man.
Down in Springfield, so.
Cool, good stuff. Thanks for sharing, man. Pretty much just kind of like the very first question. Junior Achievement, we interact with tons and tons of students, kindergarten through 12th grade. And so I think a big thing is for our high school students, just kind of figuring out what people thought what their future was when they were in high school. So while you were in school in high school, what was kind of your thought process? What did you think that you were going to do? Did you want to go to college? Do you want to work? Kind of tell us your story while you were in high school.
Yeah, so in high school, I graduated high school in 2011.
Okay.
And during high school, of course, I think as most kids enter in high school that play sports like myself, you enter and you're like, oh, am I going to get a college scholarship, go play sports there. And then as you get older, you're like, God, do I really want to? Just from knowing the time commitment that exists with college sports on that side of things. So in high school, I enjoyed most classes. I hated most of my language classes just because grammar and punctuation aren't my things. I still can't tell you where to put a comma. So here I am, 27. So
that's good.
If you can't know where to put commas and you're 15 or 16, there's hope. But anyways, so in college, I was like, we had a couple different times, in high school, we had a couple different times where it was like career day. What do you want to do? You take these different things. And I remember one time I took one of the tests and it said I needed to be a weather reporter. And so I was like, I had no desire to study meteorology or and be on the news camera. I like the idea of being in front of the camera, but did not want to be a weather reporter. So, but that kind of led into going into college to kind of led me into eventually studying advertising on that side of things. But in high school as a whole, the big thing I was focused on was just graduating high school and getting into college. Yeah. So I did get into college. I got into UNF, which I mentioned a minute ago, which is a great local school. And a large portion of why I went to UNF versus other schools was revolved around finances. So my parents did a good job as a kid growing up of just teaching about debt and cost of things, or at least I learned it well. Yeah. And so I went to UNF because I wanted to avoid debt as much as possible, and it allowed me to live at home. And so I was able to save thousands of dollars by doing that. And then as well as just in-state tuition versus out-of-state tuition, and then qualify for the bright teachers. So, but in high school, I didn't know what I wanted to do. Like I said, looked at going to college to play sports. I entertained that a little bit. I had a couple D3 schools look at me. I played football in high school. But once again, I didn't pursue that just basically because of the cost. A lot of the D3 schools, private institutions, where it's tens of thousands of dollars a year to go to school there, and it's pretty costly. And so I just decided not to move that forward with that.
Awesome, man. So you mentioned you were an advertising major, correct?
Yeah. So in college, I studied advertising. I actually started off in accounting. So I started off in accounting because I liked numbers and math, and just kind of became simple. And I talked to a guy that worked in the finance space, and he was just like, yeah, accounting's great. And then I talked to another guy, and he's like, oh, accounting. He's like, it wasn't an accountant. And he's like, well, if you like sitting behind a desk all day and looking at Excel sheets, then you'll be fine. And just kind of from a personality side of things, I couldn't see myself doing that long term.
Yeah.
So I moved into advertising, and it was really great. Really enjoyed it. There's a little bit of creativity behind it, but at the same time, at least at UNF, with their communications department, the advertising program has a kind of a broad range of things you get to study and a lot of flexibility. So I was still able to take quite a few business classes, financial classes, real estate classes, as well as study like the business behind advertising, where it wasn't just like graphic design related. It was more of like, the cost analysis of people purchasing things like blocks of commercials for TV or lots of print media and how to sell that and that. So
that's awesome.
That too.
Okay, cool. Well, then, so kind of next set of questions is, how did advertising kind of lead you into your job now, or I guess kind of what was the progression after you graduated college, and did your major, does it line up with what you're doing now?
Yeah. So yes and no. So I do not work for an ad agency. I interned at an ad agency in college. It was a really neat company. So they design all the before your big movies and movie theaters. So it's called the pre-show. So I think it's from up until 15 minutes before the movie starts. It's just a lot of local advertisements, and so they designed those, and it was really fun to work for that company. And got a job offer afterwards, interning there to work full time, and I turned it down and ended up working for Providence, who I've been with for now 5 years. The reason I went with Providence was they were a startup company, and they were in the technology space. And after meeting with the executives, they really kind of just pitched me on this idea of just, hey, we don't really know what things are going to look like. We need somebody to be flexible and do a lot of different things. It could be really great. And I just thought right out of college, it'd be a cool opportunity if it went really well. The company exploded to grow as the company grows. And if it failed, then I'd be 25 or 23 and be starting all over like everybody else. So what's the big deal? So it's been really cool. The company's grown a lot. When I started, there were about less than 10 employees. And now we have over, I think, about 65 or so.
Wow, so, that's awesome, man! What a cool place to be part of.
Yeah,
that's really awesome.
I've always enjoyed work, and so part of me was like picking a job after college. It wasn't less like where I wanted to work; it was who I wanted to work with and what I find enjoyment with them. So I worked all throughout college at San Jose Country Club in Jacksonville, which was really good. It helped once again with kind of budgeting and financing. To allow me to go to school and not take on a lot of debt, which was great. So, anyways, that's who I work for now. On there. Anything
that's awesome. So, before social distancing, before COVID-19, what did your typical day look like in, I guess, work week in general?
Yeah, so my typical day, work week, I get in the office between 8 and 8:30 in the morning on that side of things. I try to work out about 3 times a week in the morning before work, just kind of balance exercise level. I think that's a hard thing for a lot of people transition college to an office job is sitting at a desk all day once again. So you're in high school, you're in a desk for 8 hours or however long. You're in school, and then you go to college and you're just like, you're in class for an hour, and then you don't have class for 4 hours, and then you can do whatever you want. You're able to move and be active. And then you graduate college, and if you get an office job, you go back to sitting at a desk for 8, 9 hours a day. And so working out has been something that's been really useful for me to kind of balance energy levels and not feel so lethargic and kind of stay active.
That's good.
So really encourage that. But anyways, get in the office between 8 and 8:30, Monday through Friday. What my job title is a technical recruiter.
Okay.
What that basically means is I help people get jobs in the technology space.
Cool.
Our company particular specializes in a lot of project-based work. Just like an individual would hire somebody to redo the plumbing in their house for a week or something like that, or rewire electricity. A lot of companies hire technology individuals for short-term projects. They're
Got it. Okay.
3 to 6 to 9 months long, and they'll outsource the hiring need to us, and we'll help them with that. So currently, I have a company in Phoenix, Arizona, that is looking for some technology individuals that are, it's a software called Workday. And so I'm helping them hire those people. And I'm also working with a company in New York City who is going through a 4-month project, and they need some individuals to their onboarding software.
So you really work with organizations all around the nation. I mean, does that include the globe as well?
So we are mostly just across the nation. I have worked with some companies that have, some of our clients have offices in the States and then elsewhere. And so we've helped them with that. So mainly would be in Toronto, Canada. But most of the time just focus on the United States. On that, just from there's a lot of back-end tax paperwork and liability stuff that wouldn't be worth it. There's a lot of other companies. So, like us.
So then when you pretty much a company reaches out to you and saying that we are looking for a certain position, so then you're the person who then goes out and tries to fill that specific position. Is that correct?
Yeah, we go out and try to find a person to fill that role. So just like if I was just like how you would go out to a travel agency and you're like, hey, dear travel agency, I want you guys to find me. So this is a perfect example for myself. So I'm getting married in June.
Heck yeah. Congratulations, man. That's awesome.
Thanks, Steven. So working with a travel agency to kind of plan our honeymoon. And so I reached out to them and said, like, hey, we're looking at some places in the Caribbean to go to, depending on how this virus life goes, maybe later in the fall, November. And they've given us some options. They went out and did some research, give us some options. A company would come to me and say, hey, we need a technology individual that specializes in Workday. This is the client in Phoenix. I do all the research. I talk to a bunch of individuals, and then I present them who I think is the best. That's available in the market. So it's very niche side of things. So I would love to say that like I could get anybody a job, but the reality is often clients come to us to find like the LeBron James of this technology. And so
like that. That's a good analogy.
The LeBron James of Workday, I can't like work with those people. So, but I love helping people out that are out of work. I mean, that's like the biggest joy of a job is when someone's unemployed, and helping them find a job. It's a lot of fun.
That's cool. Now, did you travel a lot before social distancing with your job?
So I would go into the office every day, and occasionally do client meetings and things like that. I did not have to travel across state borders or anything like that. There are companies that do. So I have a buddy who's actually a roommate who works for a recruiting company out in Jax Beach, and he recruits nurses, so traveling nurses. And so he travels for his job to different hospitals across the country, and he's really busy right now.
Yeah, I bet.
But my job now, everything's I interact with everybody remotely. With clients and things like that. So we were very, with this whole virus thing, very easy to transition to being
which is cool. That is a really great transition to my next set of questions. Like, really, how has COVID-19, social distancing, really affected you specifically in your job and your company?
Yeah. So instead of getting dressed into like slacks and a button up or a polo, in this case, I'm wearing shorts and whatever shirt's comfortable. And so, I mean, I still log in. I probably log in earlier since I do get, so I'll get up at 7 o'clock, 6:30, something like that. And just like flip on the computer, respond to some quick emails. Then I'll go eat breakfast and shower and then come back and really start the work day. Being remote, where prior to that, I would have not started work until I came into the office at 8:30 and then would have worked and my job day to day really fluctuates between being on the phone, doing interviews with people for jobs, talking to clients, setting up interviews for clients with different candidates, and then a lot of what's called sourcing, which is basically reading resumes and seeing if people are qualified. So people will apply to a job. I read the resume and was like, all right, yes, resume aligns really well with the job description. Let me call them and move forward from there. And then meeting with my boss and talking about different initiatives and different status of things and making sure people can move forward, because it is a timeline. Just statistically speaking, it takes the average unemployed person will be unemployed for, I think it's 12 to 16 weeks, which is 3 to 4 months.
Cool.
Which is a terrible length of time.
Yeah.
And the average job on the other side of things, if you're a company looking for somebody, the average job, it takes, I think, about 100 days to fill. And this is, of course, in corporate America, it's a lot, numbers would be a lot skew or different if it was like Walmart cashier jobs. So this is a lot more like white collar work statistics. But that's still 3 months. And so there's still a timeline where if a company comes to me on a Wednesday and I spend Thursday and Friday looking for individuals, talking to individuals, qualifying them, they'll interview that following Monday. And often there's 2 or 3 steps for interviews. So you're looking at at least 1 full week, maybe 2 full weeks of interviewing, and then 2 weeks of onboarding. So people can do drug tests, background checks, get onboarded with other training and things. And so just that's 5 weeks right there.
Yeah.
Of there. And so it takes a lot of time to move things forward. There are recruiters where it's just like quick day hiring things. For example, like there's companies that work with Amazon for recruiting, and that's basically like send 50 people in on a Monday for training, and if they're still there Friday, they get a job. And so, but my job is a little bit more long-term.
Yes. No, that makes a lot of sense. Have you felt like within your company as a whole, have you guys worked closer as a team? Let's look with technology. Do you feel more isolated?
Yeah, so a lot of our staff of the 65 employees that work for us were already remote beforehand. We had a lot of employees that worked remote. And so the office core moved outward, and we've done some things like daily status calls to help with the remote side of things, just so we know what everybody's doing. And then as well as I use Slack, which is a online kind of chat profile thing with one of my coworkers, which works well because I can joke around and like send memes or GIFs to them, or I can just like ask a question about work.
Yeah, so you still feel connected with them.
Yeah, so still feeling connected. And so the hardest part about being remote for me has just been the structure. Is because is just kind of making transitioning one thing to the other. It's real easy to be like, oh, I also have to do laundry and feel busy over
stuff. Absolutely.
A washer or dryer in between like conference calls or whatever. And so then it's like you can find yourself working at like 7, 8 o'clock at night when typically you would leave the office at 5.
Yeah.
And so sometimes your work day can be expanded.
Yeah.
And so just kind of that. Trying to make sure I have good divide between work-life balance, even though I am remote.
That's really interesting that you mentioned that, because I found that even like for me, I've been working remotely from home for the past month, and I've realized it's been harder to eat lunch. Even though the kitchen is a few steps away, I'm like, oh, well, I'm working right now. Like I'm kind of in a groove, and it's really hard to stop and like prioritize like, oh yeah, you do need a break. And so it's just really interesting to hear like everybody struggles.
It is interesting. And on the reverse side of things, like before social distancing, I would get up to go to the gym at 5 a.m. in the morning. I don't think I've been up at 5 a.m. to work out.
It's understandable, man.
I've been working out in the evenings and afternoons after work.
Yeah.
So it goes both ways on that.
It's a different world, man. Well, and the final set of questions is kind of like with everything going on, our environment, our world is changing, technology is booming right now. What do you really kind of hope and per se even seen that's been like a positive change, or whether it's business world, personally, you name it?
Yeah, I think anytime there's I don't know if I should pandemic. Anytime like when our reality of human expectations, the world's reality collide with our expectations. I think it's an opportunity for creativity to take place.
Ooh,
and so I've been really impressed with just what do you do to keep normal routines. I've just kind of taken time to be really creative. And so creativity from like a personal side of things, it's using platforms like Zoom, like we're on now, to do face-to-face interaction with family members that maybe live really far away, who I can't see. Doing creativity of just making sure it's like, oh, I want to figure out more time to what can I do in the house, whether it's different projects that I want to do, like hang a picture, or I've been putting off for paint something or whatever, just some like basic projects around there. And then as the work community, I think there's a lot of creativity of how do you do work from home and that interactive side of things that a lot of companies are facing. And hopefully like the long-term impact of that creativity will allow people to be more efficient and more effective and learn how to have better work-life balance. Now,
awesome, man. And then regarding the last question, what is something that you've learned regarding like personal finance or personal budgeting with social distancing?
Yeah, being in COVID-19 world, there are a lot of people that have applied for unemployment. I have not. Luckily, my job has some security around that, which I'm really grateful for. But I think the big thing I've learned about finance is just there are a lot of things that I spend money on from a month to month when life is normal that is not, I don't have to spend money that way. So for example, like when I'm at work, I probably go out to eat once a week, if not twice a week, for lunch, which is nothing wrong with that. But that money adds up. And so I've actually been able to save some money by cutting my out to eat expenses and things like that. And,
it's really understanding like the opportunity cost when like one expense rises, then another expense has to go down. But then once again, if one expense goes down, then you have a little bit more wiggle room for something else.
Right. Yeah. So that's been helpful overall. And then also just I think on the personal finance side of things is just a reminder to have savings and be prepared and how you're investing as well. So I have a buddy that works in finance, and he says he's had a lot of phone calls with people that have only been investing in stock the last 10 years. And with the volatility that the stock market's going on, how that's been a negative consequence for a lot of these people getting ready to retire. And so looking at things like bonds and things like that is a little bit safer of an investment.
Right.
So knowing where you want to do. So that's the other thing, but that's just mostly passive reading that I do.
Well, awesome. Well, Jeremiah, thanks so much for joining and imparting your wisdom and all this good stuff. I really appreciated your insight and also just sharing about how you are caring for people and trying to get them jobs. So it's always important in this unstable world.
Yeah, absolutely, Steve. Thanks so much.
Awesome. We'll see you.